Good evening, YouTube world. I'm your host, Paul Italia. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. So, what's up, guys? Want to just update everybody on some couple of things coming up in the junk community. We got coming up in Austin, Texas, February 21st, Mindset Matters. Great event being thrown by Matt Fitch. He's got a bunch of great speakers coming there, some of them from the junk removal community. We've got Sonoma Strong making a trip, Andrew Thompson, and he's got a whole stacked card of different speakers. So, and I know we put a few tickets to the side. So if you haven't yet and you're waiting to the last second, definitely hit up Matt Fitch and jump on that. It's a great opportunity. Also, next week, we got a couple good shows coming on the channel. We got Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific time. We got the Queen of Junk, Denise Sparks. I've been waiting for this one. Met Denise at Junk Expo, was an amazing speaker, 30 plus years in the industry, just knows so much stuff, and just really looking forward to this interview I got coming up on Monday. So definitely tune in that. It'll be on the Forget About It Junk Removal channel. And then we got the episode 2 of the Junk Family going down Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's kind of the community show I'm trying to get going, where everybody in the community is invited. We put the link in the chat. Everybody could come on and just kind of talk anything, man, like any kind of hot topics going on in the world at that time. We're not just locked into junk removal talk, but for the most parts, that's where we keep it. And we got a couple of the top dogs, they come and join us, and we could ask questions, pick their brains, and it's just an overall great experience for the community to come together. So encourage you guys to definitely check out that show. It's going down Tuesday, 5 p.m. next week, the Junk Family on the Forget About It Junk Removal channel. So today we got a really good interview set up. I'm really excited about this. This is a very special guest. He's a real OG in the junk industry. He's been here for many years. He's got a couple of companies that he's put together and just doing huge things in the junk world. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Lee Godbold. How are you doing tonight, brother?
Good, Paul. I appreciate it, man. Great introduction, and you've got a lot of great things going on too. Awesome branding, and on the junk removal truck side of things. And I see what you got going on the content stuff too. You're definitely doing something different. So good work so far.
Oh, thank you, man. It means a lot coming from you, brother. So I want to just kind of jump right into things, man. And I knew right away, bro. You stood out when I got into this. What I like to do is I like to contact all the top dogs, and any industry I do. I get in and I go right to the top guys, and I try to learn from them. I like to pick their brains and kind of just find what made them so successful. And I got to say, bro, you stood out right away. We haven't even got on interview or anything, but you were the first one in the junk community that I got hit up by an assistant, hitting me up and kind of giving me the whole list of topics that you would love to, to touch on and all that. And I was like, wow. I was like, you definitely stood out with that, man. I've on some of my other channels, I've had people like dealing with some of the athletes and all that, they had their agents, hit me up and kind of go over things, but I didn't expect it from the junk removal industry, and it was very impressive. You got my attention right away, brother. And I could see you're a man that likes to come organized and prepared for everything, and that showed just, in that short communications with setting up this interview. And I just wanted to make a point of that.
Yeah, I've done a few of these things where I'm actually conducting the interview, and I find it helpful to have kind of that bit of information. So it wasn't, I don't present it as a way of I'm saying like, hey, Paul, this is what we need to talk about. And then, on your show, it's like, hey, here are some topics that I know that you may not be aware of that I kind of know about. So if you want to bring them up, and if it goes that way, hey, we'll cover it.
Well, I take it as I really took it as like respect, brother. It was like very impressive to me. It kind of stood out, and I'm one of those guys that likes to stand out, and just like I said, man, I like to find people's strengths, and I could see right from that the organization that you like to come and the preparedness. That's one of those character traits that I look for in a successful person in business.
And Paul, one thing I'll say is, I fought the urge or the resistance on getting an assistant for a long time. This is something I probably did when Shannon's only been with me for maybe 4 months now, something like that. and she controls my calendar. She controls most of my messaging. Now, I was the one actually Facebook messaging you there, but she actually has access to my Facebook account. And I'd look at my calendar, and she gives me an update at the end of the day and say, hey, this is what you have going on. And it's made me so much more productive because every single day I've got my calendar completely figured out. She handles emails on a lot of my emails and stuff too. So if once you get to that point where you need one, I found that an assistant can actually help you make a tremendous amount of money because you don't have to worry about answering emails and scheduling on your calendar. You work on the high value stuff that really provides a lot of impact.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you said that, brother. I actually do the same, and it's my wife is my assistant, like full time. She doesn't work. That's what she kind of does, is kind of helps me run all my businesses and kind of keeps me on schedule. And it's hitting home when you're saying this. So definitely a very smart move there. But I want to jump into, some of the meat and potatoes here, man, because definitely when you sent me over some of the topics, I was definitely impressed, and I didn't know some of the things they were involved in. And one of those being junk doctors. So kind of tell me, how did you come across junk doctors? How did you put it together, and where is it today and all that?
Yeah. So junk doctors, was how I got into junk removal. And it started in 2011. And kind of precursor to that is I race cars. So I raced we're in North Carolina. So it's like the NASCAR hub. So we're doing the roundy round circle track, asphalt style racing out here in North Carolina. I was working a very prestigious job as a manager at a roller skating rink. I'm not even exactly sure they called me a manager there. I think I was making 10 or 12 bucks an hour, and everything I was making was going towards this racing habit. Some might call it an addiction or an affliction, and kind of ran out of money. 10 bucks an hour doesn't get you very far in the racing world. So I sort of ran out of money, and I was left with this pickup truck. Still had my job, but I sold everything off. The truck was an old truck. It never really, people weren't really interested in paying what I was willing to sell it for. So I got to thinking, I said, hey, what's something I can do kind of on the side to my job that would bring in some extra money? I'm like, I've got this truck sitting here. I'm paying insurance on it or whatever. I might as well see if I can put it to use, and I'm willing to work hard. So I knew that I was, willing to load up stuff or move stuff or do deliveries or whatever needed to be done. And I had never heard of junk removal at all at that point. So, I mean, you got to remember, there's no YouTube at this point. There's YouTube, but there's no junk removal channels on YouTube. There's no information online. I had never heard of 1-800-GOT-JUNK. I'd never seen a 1-800-GOT-JUNK truck. I just went on Craigslist. I threw up a ad on, hey, I'll haul junk for you in my pickup truck. And I think it was $30 was what I charged for my first load. And within like an hour and a half, I got a call that was 2 miles down the street from where I lived. I went there. It was like 4 loads, I think it was. And it was either 30 or $50 a load. I think the first time was 30, and the second job I went to 50. But I made something like $150 in 4 hours worth of work. For somebody that's used to making $10 an hour or whatever I was making, it's like, man, in 4 hours, I earned what would have taken me, a day and a half, 2 days or whatever to earn at this other job. And the calls just kind of started just coming in, and I added a trailer. I was the absolute most ghetto junk removal company out there. I mean, right now, people, they look at the stuff we have and the trucks we have, and it's a really tight-knit professional organization. But back then, I mean, the first trailer I had, it didn't even have high sides. So I build these great, beautiful trucks now, but that first trailer was literally a utility trailer meant to haul ATVs that my boss at the roller skating rink lent to me. So I didn't have to keep doing all these runs in the pickup truck. And it had 6-inch, maybe 10-inch sides on it, not even a foot. I mean, you're talking like something like this. And I would take ratchet straps, and I would run like 15 ratchet straps just all which way on the trailer. And, I know time's going down the road. I remember one time I looked back and I saw my mattress just came off. And I just like, oh man, this thing's about to hit somebody, but luckily it flew on over and didn't. And it was after that I said, okay, now let's upgrade. Let's get a nicer trailer. And these are not dump trailers at this point. I wasn't thinking that big. It took me probably 3 months to sit there and weigh the pros and cons. I remember, and it's funny, when I recently found this document, I put a document together and I weighed out the pros and cons of getting another trailer. And this is a 6x12 trailer, single axle. And I want you to ask me about why I used a single axle here in a second too. It was a single axle, and I think it was $1,500, and it took me 3 months to make that decision. And now we'll make $15,000 or $90,000 decisions in a matter of a few hours, or at least a few weeks or a month or two. It's not a big drawn out thing anymore. So I really came from something small, and then we built it up now. Junk Doctors. We just took delivery of our 19th. I think it's our 19th truck. We don't run 19 trucks now. We've like sold some. I think 12. I think we got like 12 trucks in operation. On a busy day, we'll run all 12. On a slow day, might run 6. So in 3 markets: Charlotte, Raleigh, and Greensboro, North Carolina. It's one of the larger unaffiliated with a franchise junk removal companies in the country. We do right about $3 million a year. We were a little under that last year, but we've hit it before. So that's kind of where we stand on Junk Doctors.
Wow. So I want to kind of digest some of all this that you just told me. So, when you first began, it was just kind of trying to supplement and find some extra money to kind of pay for your racing and all that. When did this change in your brain to this is something I could do as a career. This is something that's definitely profitable and I could scale.
Paul, I was always looking for something. So even when I had that $10 an hour job, which I kept that I got that when I was 15. And I kept it until the business really kind of took off. And I think I was 21 at that time when I quit. And I would have quit a little bit sooner, but my boss's son was actually climbing a tree, and one of the limbs wound up breaking, and he fell and he broke his back, and he was going to be out. My boss was going to be out for a prolonged period of time doing that. So I hung around just to help him out. He was such an influence on me that, I hung around for a few more months after that till things got in a better position. And his son, by the way, recovered, and he and his dad he's since sold the roller skating rink, and he and his dad own a towing company, and they're doing well. And he's a good friend of mine. We get lunch pretty much once a week. So, but anyway, I was, at 21, I stopped there, and I went kind of full time in the truck, on the junk removal side of things, and things just kind of took off from there.
How long were you on the truck?
I would do jobs I was on every single job working like 70, 80 hours a week for about a year and a half. And then I brought somebody on that started handling a lot of the jobs, and I would be on it for maybe like 20 or 30 hours for another year or so. And then I was predominantly off after about year 3 and just kind of working on the business. And go back to your prior question, when did it look like it was actually going to be a career? I was always looking for something. So like I said, when I was at the roller skating rink, I had tried out this flyer delivery business. So I'd actually got these bags, and we would go to local businesses, and they'd get them to pay us a little bit to put flyers in this bag. And then we'd run around and stick them on door hangers or doorknobs. We did that for a little while. It didn't really last. I washed airplanes at one point. Instead of doing car washing, I did some plane washing. I've always been around aviation. I'm a pilot, and just would do these things, and I wouldn't stick with it very long. So, I'd get a little success, and then I just hit this wall. And instead of trying to figure out to make the business I was in work, I would switch to something else. And luckily, so junk removal started out well, but I'd actually gotten to a similar point. And it's funny, we're telling this story. This is the second show I've actually done today, or second. Actually, the first one was an interview we're going to be putting out later this week, and it was actually with a guy by the name of Zach Mefford. And Zach had started a company called Charlotte Junk Guys, and he had actually sold that company because he was moving back to Iowa. He and his wife were getting married. They were moving back to Iowa. He had sold that company, and I had come into where my growth had kind of stalled, maybe a year or so into it. And I got on an internet forum, something like Reddit. It probably wasn't Reddit back then, but it was some sort of forum. And I basically just put a question out there and said, hey, I've started this junk removal business. It's gone okay, but I can't seem to grow it. I don't see how I'm going to be able to grow this thing to where I can make a good amount of money and build a multi-truck operation and do the things that I wanted to do. And Zach replied to that. We wound up coming up with a phone conversation. And he said, well, man, you're only charging $195 for a trailer load. You need to go up to like $350 or $395 or something. So I was nervous as hell. And overnight I went up $200 on my price to $395 trailer load. And the other thing he's got me started on was Google Ads, which Google Ads was a gold mine in that period of time. It's still good now. Like, people knock it. We spend a lot of money on it. We get a lot of customers from it. The lifetime value is where a lot of the value is, because Google sucks you dry just as much as they possibly can. I still think it's a good thing for people to do, but they have to understand it. But back then there
wasn't as much competition, I'm thinking.
$2 a click, man. It's like $2 or $3 a click. So, you'd have a budget of $25 and get 5 jobs or something crazy,
Yeah.
So we just took off like nuts at that point. We were making more money because we were charging more. And then we had like all these really good customers coming in through Google. And that lasted about 1.5 years or 2 years. And then it gradually started getting more competitive as people found out about Google Ads.
So let me get this straight. So when you first started, and when you were trying to market and everything, what would you say was your main, driving force to get the business in right away? Was it Google Ads?
Well, the first year or so, Craigslist was what it was built off of. I was one of those guys, I'd post like 6 or 8 times on Craigslist, which I guess some people maybe still post on Craigslist now. I haven't heard very many people doing it. I guess they mention it every once in a while, but back then, Craigslist was a pretty big thing. So we would post 6 or 8 times a day. That way we had the top listing. It was us and maybe 6 or 8 other junk removal businesses that we just we were in a little keyboard war on posting and being up top. And eventually they started charging for Craigslist posts, which that was the best thing actually for me, because I was willing to spend I think it was $5 or $10 a post. I can't remember. I was willing to spend the money. So like those guys, they would just post once a day or once a week. Hell, I was still posting 6 or 8 times a day. So I was like always up top. I spend $30 on ads and, I'll get a good amount of work. But once I started doing Google Ads, I maybe did Craigslist for another year-ish, somewhere in there. And then I gradually kind of backed off of it because Google started really doing well. And it was shortly thereafter we started getting some organic traffic too. We started ranking pretty well organically. And the client was so much better on Google. So over time, I stopped doing Craigslist.
Gotcha. I just want to catch up. We got a few comments in the chat that I want to make mention of. We got America Junk Boss. We had Bean Burgo. She was on yesterday on Ladies Night. Great episode. If you guys haven't checked it out, definitely make sure to go check it out. I'm going to be putting out clips this next week, but it was an amazing interview. But Bean says, "Hi, Paul. Hi, Lee. This is cool. I remember 5 years ago, Lee talked to me and my fiance about loans. We look at this guy like he's famous. The Lee Gold. I'm very smart, man. Hell yeah." Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And I want to shout out Drew24. He is my official moderator, killing it. He put the Forget About It junk removal link in there. Definitely click that. And Mr. Peanut in the house. What is up, Mr. Peanut? How have you been? Oh, we got the queen of junk in the house, Denise Sparks. How are you, Denise? Denise, me will be on Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. We've got our big interview set up, so definitely tune in then. And we got Caroline Loomis. How are you, Caroline? Great supporter. Thank you for tuning in. And yeah, I think we're pretty caught up. And guys, if you're in the chat and you got a question for Lee, just post it up there and I'll make sure to bring it up. And then before I forget, I want to bring up, you asked me to ask, how come you went with the single axle vehicle first?
Yeah, I'm glad you got around to that, because that is kind of a story that I enjoy telling. Around North Carolina, or not North Carolina, but in the Raleigh market, which is the market we started in, we have these things throughout the county, throughout Wake County, called convenience centers or convenience sites. Essentially, it's a drop-off area where you can bring stuff, but it's only supposed to be for residents and homeowners. You're not supposed to do it commercially. So, we had our polo shirts. We were looking all, fancy and in full and uniform. And then on the trailer, it only allowed single axle. You couldn't have a dual axle trailer. So that's the reason I got a single axle. The trailer, we took these chloroplast signs and they look pretty good. We would bolt them on the side of the trailer and we bolted it onto the tailgate of the trailer. And we would show up at a customer's house in uniform with these signs on, would load everything up. We'd leave, go a couple miles down the road or whatever. Before we got to the land or the dump, these convenience center sites, we pull into a gas station, we change our shirts, we take our signs off the trailer or whatever, and we go off these convenience sites and dump for free. And we did that for, I don't know, 1.5 years or something.
Okay.
And that's the reason we went in the single axle trailer, though.
I like that, man. That's a hustler right there.
Yeah.
Very smart. Very smart. So I want to now move on because I know that you've got a couple businesses under your belt that involve junk removal, and I want to kind of find out how they came about. And one of them being JRA, Junk Removal Authority. Tell me how did like what's that all about, and how did that all come about?
Yeah, so what we say with JRA is we're the digital marketing agency for $1 million junk removal and dumpster rental companies and those that want to get there. So we've got a lot of $1 million, 7-figure plus junk removal companies under our wing that have worked with us for many, many years. Many of those have actually surpassed us at Junk Doctors. We do about 3 million. We've got guys doing 4 million and 6 million and just doing awesome. But so we focus a lot on the marketing side now. And initially, when it was first envisioned, we do some of this now. It was first envisioned. It was me debating between franchising Junk Doctors and creating what I consider to be a franchise alternative. So I had spent maybe a year and a half looking into franchising Junk Doctors, but there was already several companies doing it. You had obviously Got Junk. Junk King was doing it then. College Hunks, Holland Junk was doing it. There were a few others that had gotten approved for franchising at that point, and it seemed like it just started to kind of stall out at after like Junk King, College Hunks. It lost a lot of the momentum. And since then, the only other one that's actually done okay with it is Junk Luggers. Luggers, they started franchising, I think, in about 2020 or so, somewhere in there. I think I'd already started JRA, but they started franchising, which is interesting because actually we modeled a lot of the Junk Doctor site, the original Junk Doctor, well, not the original, but the Junk Doctor site from like 2016. We modeled a lot of that off Junk Luggers, who at that time was a regional player up in Connecticut and New York. And I'd followed their stuff. I was always very impressed with what Luggers had done from a branding standpoint, and we kind of emulated a lot of that. But with JRA, what we said is, all right, hey, there's some good things with franchising. All right, you get the branding. That's awesome. You get a professional look. You get all the initial training. You get the support right when you start. It makes you feel like, hey, I've got somebody that is looking after me, that's showing me the ropes and how this works. And it's going to speed up the process for me to be successful. So I'm like, all right, that's great. But on the other side of things, we've got this thing that kind of sucks, which is the fact that they are giving you territorial restrictions. If you buy like 500,000 population, you buy 500,000 population or two, and you're going to have an initial franchise fee depending on what you buy into, a 60 grand or 100 grand, or Got Junk at one point, I think it was up to 200,000 before they just ran out of territories to sell.
Yeah, I have a question. What is the average franchise cost these days?
I have not looked recently. I don't know how many of them are selling at this point in the junk space. I think Junk Luggers is somewhere around 75 grand or something. J-Dog, if they're still selling them, they were always a lot less. It was a completely kind of different model for them. But you had a big upfront. But honestly, the upfront wasn't the largest detractor. It was the fact that, you had to send 10 to 15% back to the mothership in terms of royalties, or they'll say royalties, contact fees, and they'll all make up this thing called a national advertising fund. And it'll amount.
Is that like an annual? Is that an annual charge that they put on you? Like every year you're paying a fee.
It's a percentage of your revenue, and you're going to pay out those royalties monthly. So, for example, when you first start out, it's not a huge deal because let's say you do $100,000 in business, $100,000 to keep it easy. So you'd pay out like 15 grand in royalties. It's not a lot of money, but we've got a consultant that works with us that helps people out. Sam Schick, he built up the company to $10 million a year. It was a Got Junk franchise, and he was sending back 16%. So he was sending back 1.6 million every single year. It's off the top line too to Got Junk. So I didn't like that model, but I saw the positives of the support. So I'm like, all right, let's provide the what we call the business package. We still offer that. We still sell a decent number each year, really, to help people get started. And so let's get people the operations manuals. We got an awesome video training series that honestly I've been told from people that have seen the Got Junk stuff that it's better than the Got Junk stuff, which is good. It took forever to make and it cost a bunch of money to make it. But and then we got the ongoing support, and basically we just kind of hold people's hand to get them started and get them going. But after that first year, you know just about everything at that point. I mean, there's going to be some things the people call us up and ask us, but you know a lot after the first year. You've gotten the confidence to really tackle the things on your own, and I think that's great. And the other thing we did is the marketing services, which even if you have a franchise, you still have to hire a marketing company. They'll do a little bit for you, but you're still hiring a marketing agency. So that's not like something they're generally providing for you. So, and then if we don't perform, hey, kick us out. That was our approach, where you're not tied into this 5-year bear of a, franchise contract. Oh, and hey, by the way, when you go to sell your business, which Sam found this out the hard way, when you go to sell your business, people hate the fact, if they're not already in it, that every single one of them has a line in there saying that the franchisor could cancel the contract or choose not to renew the contract at the end of the term. So you're like, you build a $10 million a year junk removal business that's netting, say, $2 million a year. It's probably worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 to $20 million at that point, once you get to that size, when you go off and sell it. But now you can't really get your full valuation because there's certain people that don't want to buy it because of the risk. Who wants to spend $20 million on something that somebody can decide they want to cancel here, when the contract's up?
Yeah, wow. And Drew24, if you can you just share JRA's website, Junk Removal Authority, in the chat, please? And how do you go about like pricing? Do you have like different tier packaging and levels for people to sign up? And where's the best place for people to sign up?
Man, if you're looking for the marketing package side of things, you can put information through on the contact forms. We used to do legacy stuff where we would offer like a la carte services with Google ads or just SEO or just this or just that. Now we have like packages that we put together. It's a premium offering. The starting price is $3,000 a month. We have a $5,000 a month one. It includes a website. We've got great SEO, great GVP management, Google ads management, help with branding. You get some good consulting along with that. We have amazing customer service. This is stuff we've over the last 18 months. I mean, we've just been really, really investing hard in and improving internally because, we want to be the company, and we are the company for $1 million plus junk removal and dumpster rental business owners. So we wanted to create a package that was aimed at them. It's not necessarily going to be the right for somebody that's just jumping into the business unless you have some money built up. What we'd love to be there though is, hey, you can look on our channel. You can look at Paul. They can look at your channel. Sonoma Strong puts out some good stuff. That'll get you really, really going, and that'll get you a good foundation. And when you're ready to go to multiple trucks and build up a large business, we want to be there for you at that point to provide you with kind of that next level of marketing. So you can go with something else at the start, get you to a great point, and then we want to be able to take you kind of to that next level. And that's what we try every day, to just create the best possible product that we can.
Well, Lee, I'm really happy to have you on right now. And I don't know if you got to see the first episode of the Junk Family. We did a week back, and we kind of had a lot of the big dogs in the industry, and we got into this topic came up, and it was with Ricardo from Junk Guys in Texas. He's a little controversial. He comes out with some things, and it's kind of what I like about him is he has no filter, and he doesn't care about pissing off people. But anyways, during that podcast, it came up. He said that do not expect to get into junk removal and become a millionaire, and it's impossible to do. And it stirred everybody up in there. A lot of people were in disagreement, and kind of got into this whole debate over it. And I was just thinking in my head as we're doing this, I was like, oh, actually, I gotta bring this up because I know I got Lee coming on next week. And well, before I could even mention you, he starts going, and of course he threw in JRA and all this, and so I said, let him say his comment and all. And I was like, well, actually, I got Lee coming on next week, and I hope that you could tune in, man, and hope you're in the chat, and we could have this debate because you're a perfect example of somebody that did make this business into millions. And I'm thinking you're bringing in $3 million a year. You're definitely pocketing at least $1 million of that. So is it possible?
Yeah, well, I mean, once you get to $3 million a year, the profit margins aren't, when you're a single truck operator, the profit margin, you can be 60-70% or whatever. When you get to that size, you get to $1 million, $750, $1 million, your net margins start going down, especially in my case, where I'm basically just an investor in my business. So like we're 15 to 20% net margins, but it's bringing me in 500 or 600 grand. It's a passive investment. I sit there and make decisions on what trucks, when we need to buy trucks or replace trucks, or, we look over the budget and financial statements, and it maybe takes up 2 to 3 hours of my time every single month. So, I mean, you're talking a business that I make 500 or 600 grand off of in a matter of 40 hours in a year. So, that's
It
pretty
makes
good
sense.
money. Yeah, it's pretty good money. That's just on junk doctors. So
And that's what I was. That was my answer to to his answer to that, and I was like, it's a matter of investing, and I said it's not all about being a millionaire either. It's more about being free, using money as a tool to allow you to be able to live and do whatever you want. If you can wake up and you could do anything you want, and you could do that for a month straight, and still come home and your businesses all still be running and still be successful, then that's what the overall of being free is. And I think that's more of what people are chasing rather than just getting the title of a millionaire. Do you agree with that?
yeah, I mean, freedom's the reason that I got into it, and to me, making money and building these businesses up, I enjoy doing it. A lot of it's a challenge, but a lot of it's the freedom. I mean, I want to be able to go where I want to go, do what I want to do, have the life I want, give my kids opportunities that I never had. Not that I grew up poor or anything. I didn't at all, but there's things that I want them to be able to experience in places that I want them to be able to go that I wasn't able to. I mean, I was probably 12 years old before I had a real steak. We were all cube steak stuff. And again, I didn't have, my parents did pretty well. They were just extremely, extremely tight with their money. But here's one thing I want to add. Ricardo is very good at stirring the pot, and he is very good at getting attention. And I would almost guarantee you, if he opened up his finances, I'm gonna say his books. I'm sure he didn't have books, but if you sat there and you looked at some property he owns, and you looked at cash he has, I guarantee you that guy's rolling in cash. So, like, Ricardo's probably a millionaire. He's been doing this long enough. He operates extremely tight on his margins. He's on every single job. Like, he makes a little bit for YouTube, but he ain't gonna make much. He might make 20 grand a year or something off YouTube or something like that. But he's got a little Halloween thing going on, which is related to junk. I mean, the junk helped him purchase that property where he does the Halloween stuff. Now, I don't think he made what he said he made off of it in that Facebook post he put out, but I bet you he's a millionaire.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I got to say about I've been looking into the haunted houses for some time now. Is I had a friend I grew up with, and he moved down to Georgia from New York, and he opened them up years ago, and he kept telling me, he's like, bro, what a business. And also, I've been doing my research and then coming across Ricardo, and I mean, I think they open 13, 14 days a year, and I mean, they're bringing in a few 100,000 a year, and also definitely you could make some good money in that as well. Wow. But I want to talk. We got Carson Alexander has a good question. He goes, what's your thoughts about the current state of the industry and where we are heading?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I mean, it's not the awesome years was the COVID years, man. I mean, COVID, you could just make money. It was so easy to make money because everybody had the free money coming in from the government. They were all staying home. Everybody knows the story. And they were buying new stuff and getting rid of stuff. And it was just so easy to make money then. And that was also during the low interest rate environment. And we've been at low interest rates on mortgages and all for 15 years up until a year and a half ago. Yep. So what happened is when those interest rates went up and inflation went up, people had less free money, and then also nobody's moving. So the amount of people that are actually selling their home to buy into another home has gone down a lot. And what that means is a couple things. One, you get fewer jobs because 75% of all junk removal jobs are your customer is in some sort of period of transition, whether they're moving, whether it's a death in the family, a divorce, whatever, change of job, whatever, there's some sort of transition point for 75% of customers. So when you're taking out the moving aspect, you're taking out this huge chunk of jobs. But here's what I know. I don't think interest rates are going to come down very much, honestly. Like, I think the average mortgage rate is now 6.5%, 7%, maybe 7.5%, something like that. If you look historically in the history of the country, a 7% mortgage is pretty damn good.
Yes.
Like, I mean, my parents said their first house they bought, I think they had like a 17% interest rate, and they had a great credit score. And that was just like 70s and 80s. That's just the way things were. 7% is historically low. It's probably where it needs to be. to keep inflation under wraps and for a healthy economy, like it should cost a little bit of money to borrow money. So what will happen over time is people get more used to that and they'll get tired of staying at the same place. Most people want to move up. They want to upgrade. So it just might take a little while for salaries to keep catching up and for people to get used to it, but people will start to buy. And I think we're going to start seeing that some this year. I think people are still trying to wait and see what's going to happen with the economy. The average person, a lot of people are starting to feel a lot better about it now this time of year than they did last time of year. Now, I think people are going to try and figure out, hey, what's going to go on with the tariff situation and that sort of deal. But, as long as people see positive momentum going on, the unemployment's still good. They're still getting money in. They're getting some raises coming in. Inflation isn't going crazy. Sometime throughout this year, I think the real estate market's going to start to move a little bit more. And as we get to 2026, I think it's going to start picking back up. And then our average job size is going to go up and the amount of jobs that we have are going to go up. And
I don't know so much about that one, man, because, I got a place over in Florida and a lot of people are coming to realization right now we're in a bubble over there that's about to pop. And, there's nobody that's getting approved to buy a house right now. And they expanded because, real estate runs 2 years behind and, they're building up all these places, but there's nobody actually buying. And the prices are just so high right now. So, because during COVID, everybody moved to Florida and Texas. So Florida is seeing this bubble and we're about to pop out there. So I'm a little skeptical right now about with real estate and everything. It's a little nerve wracking when you look into the real estate. I think, I'm kind of holding off because I was looking about possibly getting some in California, but I think I'm just going to wait like a year or so and just kind of see what goes on with the market. What I've been going crazy on is recently is with crypto and Bitcoin. That's kind of where I've been, looking for my investments and all that.
Tell me a little bit about that. I'm not big on the Bitcoin side of things. How long have you been doing that?
I dabbled with it for, about 4 or 5 years ago. And, I had a bad experience with the medical marijuana stocks and all. And I kind of got caught up in, all that. And it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth with all the trending stuff and following it. So it took a couple years to, I backed off of crypto. But recently, about like a year back, I jumped in. My boy just kept telling me about it. He's like, bro, it's about to be the 4-year cycle. We're about to go into a bull run like no other. You need to take full advantage of it. So, I've been doing all my research and, I went in pretty big and I've been living the crypto world, which is very, very volatile. But in the long run, I really believe it and all.
Nice. Well, that's exciting.
So I wanted to go on to this topic because this is one that, I'm very interested in. And it's about scaling the business, from going from being on the truck to now, running your business rather than actually working the business. How do you manage that? And like, how did you make that transition happen?
That transition's oftentimes not very smooth. Most of the time people do it too slowly, but sometimes you can actually do it too fast and you wound up kind of taking a few steps backwards before you take enough steps forward. So the way I did it, it actually worked out pretty good with junk doctors. I've made a mistake a little bit with JRA and with STB on not quite timing that, turning some stuff over to somebody else a little too soon, or maybe before they were quite ready, while I was trying to kind of free up my time on some of the, like working on inside of the business type of things. And that kind of bit me. But with junk removal, it's also a little easier with junk removal. So, I mean, obviously the very first thing that you're going to do is you're going to get somebody trained up to be able to quote the job. So, once they can quote and start driving, then you're freed up a lot. So at that point, you can focus in on networking events, which is big for us, Rotary clubs, Chamber of Commerce's, just kind of building up our name.
Lee, let me stop you right there. So let me ask you, how do you go about training that first guy, that's going to be running your day to day and driving in the truck? Like, how did you go about that? Because I'm right around that stage.
Well, I mean, if you're on the truck, it's actually a lot easier than once you're no longer really on the truck. And so if you're on the truck, you just start with that guy you're driving and he's riding with you. And you basically do several jobs where you're doing the quoting and he's just watching. And then you start basically saying, hey, all right, bring him to the side. What do you think this is? And he'll come up with something or another. And you'll say, I think you're a little off right here. It's probably this, this, this. Why do you ask him, why do you think it was this amount? And you try and figure out what he would miss. And before you know it, he's going to start nailing it pretty good. And once he gets to the point where he's nailing, 9 out of 10 quotes, he's probably ready. You're going to miss one every once in a while, but at that point, they're pretty ready. And then you're working on the selling side of things all the time. So explaining that estimate, dealing with objections, and role playing is the best way to do that. They hear you doing it actually with the customer, but you don't want them practicing on the customer. So at that point, what I was doing back then is I didn't do a lot of role playing initially. That's something I picked up later on. But if I was doing it again, what I would do is driving down the road when you got that windshield time, I'd sit there and we just go back and forth like, hey, if the customer says this, what do you say? If you know that, I would just go through the different scenarios and just get to the point where it was almost natural to them, and let them just kind of prove it out to you. And then all of a sudden, then you're going to transition into driving, and that can be a little nerve wracking depending on their experience.
Yeah.
But you get that right. I have cameras in all our vehicles, and we monitor it, and it actually monitors driving habits, and it ranks people. It rates people on how good they are. And if there's issues,
What is that system? What is it called?
man, we go through a company called Blue Arrow Telematics. That's actually local here. I believe the camera system is called Surf Sight. There's two of them. There's Surf Sight and there's something else, but you can look it up online. And the system that you want is a camera that faces both outside the vehicle as well as inside. It's got AI in it, so it'll monitor driving habits. It's got GPS tracker and all as well. And then what we do, since we have multiple drivers, is every driver has their own key card, and there's a thing they scan. Once you get in the truck, it scans it, and then that tells the system what driver it is. And you can't start the truck until you scan that card.
Oh, that's genius. I like this. This is definitely something. Do you pay a monthly fee on that?
It's not a lot, man. It's so you have to pay for cell service is basically the main thing you do. So, I mean, the camera system itself is maybe $1,700 or something like that. It's not a whole lot. And then you pay maybe $70 a month or something for the cell service, basically, which is, that way you can have live view and kind of see what's going on.
How long, like in general, because I know it's going to be different for everybody, but like for like the average, how long does it take you to train somebody that they'll be able to, run their own truck?
Honestly, man, I mean, 30 days, you can get somebody that's doing pretty well. If you take 60 days, they should know the job really, really well at that point. And of course, that depends on how much work you're doing. I mean, if you're doing 5 jobs a day, 6 days a week, they're going to pick up on it pretty quick. If you're only doing, a job or 2 a day, then it's going to take a little longer.
Now, do you let the employees take the truck home, or
they all come back to a central location?
Okay. All right. Now, what is a tip that you could give to us newbies out there for somebody that's just getting into the junk removal business, and they're looking to go all in and kind of repeat like what you did, build like scaling the business? What's something that you could give us as a tip?
Junk removal is an industry now where there's a lot of competition, so you have to stand out. You do a very good job at standing out. So I think a lot of times people could actually look at what you have going on. Fuhgeddaboutit is a great name. It stands out. Your website, if you go to it, it screams your branding. So they did a good job with, and you and them did a very good job on putting a site out that's memorable, and that's really, really key. So now the next step is making sure that you're found. So you're on the map listing, your map pack, your Google map listing. That's about the quickest business that you can get, that you actually don't have to pay much money for. It just takes a lot of attention. The key thing is if you can start with an address. If you can actually have a physical address listed, you're going to have an immediate advantage. And then if you're posting pictures and updates and you fill out the profile completely, if you just treat it with love, I say when it comes to Google Business Profile, treat it with love, and Google will treat you back with love. If you have that address. If you don't have an address, they don't really care about you. So
let me ask you this, Lee, is that something extra on top of Google My Business page that you have to get the Google Maps? Is that like an extra service on top of it?
No, it's the same thing. So GMB, Google it used to be called Google My Business, Google Maps, Google Business Profiles, what it's called now. It's all the same thing.
Okay, because I was just making sure, because that's why I went and paid and got a physical address. I went in because a lot of people are doing the virtual offices and all, and I just wanted to get a physical office. This way I wouldn't have no problems and I would rank right away. So that's what you mean by getting ranked with the Google Maps.
Exactly. Yep. So, and you getting the physical address, I don't know what that cost you, but a good Google Maps listing, if you have a good ranking, and let's say the location you choose is important too, because depending on how competitive it is, you might only rank in like a 3-mile, 5-mile radius around your address. You might only be in the map pack in that. at least initially. So get a good address. You might spend more, but that one address, once you're in the map pack, depending on where you are, I mean, that could be $20,000-$30,000 a month in business coming from that map pack. And then all of a sudden,
I picked the middle of town. I literally went into main town and just got that because I figured that it's going to mean a lot with, finding business.
Well,
yeah.
Hey, I mean, you're a smart guy and you're willing to make the investment, it seems, which is great. And then once you have that map pack ranking, so you're taking photos every day, you're making sure location settings are all on your phone. That way Google sees, hey, these pictures are actually happening from the area that we're in. You're doing regular deals or updates. You're responding, you're getting reviews, you're asking for reviews. You have a reputation management software. Like we provide nice job to our clients. You have a reputation management software that helps you get those reviews and reminds people. And then you immediately respond to them just same day, if at all possible. Google really, really likes that. And there's about 15 other things you could be doing. But if you do those things right there, you have a physical address, chances are you'll be flirting with that map pack in a matter of time.
What about CRM? Do you work with a CRM?
Yeah, we've been with Workies for years. It was much better than what we came from before. And they really were kind of innovators in the junk removal space there for a really, really long time. So Workies has been a great system for us. We're pretty heavily invested in it. They're doing some neat stuff now with AI phone answering and AI appointment bookings and stuff like that, which we're really kind of testing out. So Workies has been really, really good for us.
Have you got to try out Autopilot, Andrew Thompson's Autopilot?
I contacted Andrew. He had reached out and I contacted him back about last week or something like that. We haven't been able to link up yet and actually take a look at it, but he seems like a smart guy. It's neat that he actually went through it. I'm interested to see what the platform's about. And, Andrew will be watching this. My concern would be, and I think anybody should just make sure, just wonder about this. Just the concern would be, is the uptime going to be really good as he scales and grows, which I think he's going to, because I think it's very reasonable in price from what I've seen. And anytime something's reasonable in price, it's going to grow fast. But the question is he going to be profitable enough with it to have the money to invest in the support and invest in the systems to really, really keep up? That's a cutthroat world. I mean, Workies has had millions and millions and millions of dollars of seed money, like to the tune north of like $60 million, I think, in investment money. Nowadays with AI, you can develop things. There's a site called like bolt.new, and there's AI development sites that give you a big heads up on building software where you can probably do stuff or you definitely can do stuff for probably a quarter of the cost, if not even a tenth of the cost, depending on what you got going on. And I don't know if he's doing any of that or if he's just hard coding, but so it's a little easier now, but there's a lot of challenges coming up. So before I would take a $3 million a year business and spend all the money and the time, because it's a lot of effort to switch something once you're that large, once you have some size. Before I would do that, I would want to have assurances that they're going to be able to keep up, with the growth.
Yeah, I'm very interested to hear after you guys have that conversation and your thoughts on it and all. And then my other question from that is, do you believe in working with tracking numbers to, track all your marketing and all?
Yeah, I mean, we're big on conversion tracking and all, understand what comes from where. So we utilize something called CallRail. I think Andrew's system has tracking numbers. I don't know if they dynamically swap. So Workies, we don't use the Workies number tracking system because you have to, at least you used to, maybe they've changed it. You have to have one number for each advertising platform. With CallRail, it actually knows, hey, did this come from Facebook? Did they type your website in directly? Did it come from Google Organic? Did it come from Google Maps? Did it come from Google Ads? Yelp, yard sign. You can create actually independent numbers too for like yard signs and all if you wanted to. So, but it dynamically swaps that number. Yeah. So if you go on the Junk Doctor's website, it's going to show different numbers depending on where you came from. And that is how it tracks that. And that allows us to really say, hey, our Google Ads is working. We're making 3X, 4X, 5X what we're spending on it. Or, hey, this, we've had an off month or two on Google Ads. We're only making 2X. We really need to kind of refine what we're doing. Maybe if it's slow season, maybe we actually dial back what we're spending here because at 2X, we know we can't be profitable. And until we start seeing 3X, 4X, 5X, then we start dialing it back up. And we did that this winter. So with Junk Doctors, you know, we went from doing like last fall, summer, spring, we were like 5, 6X on our advertising spend, which is very good for Google Ads. It got into like December and January, everybody had run their bids up because they got slow. And now we're like 2X. They're like, hey, we'll dial this back a little bit. And then what happens is people ran out of money. So then we increased our budget back. The numbers went back to 6X return. And, you know, that we're back up what we needed after like a 3-week pause.
Wow, that's good to know. And we got a question from Denise Sparks. She says, what are your thoughts on virtual assistants, pros versus cons?
Love VAs. So JRA, there's about 25 people with JRA, and there's 7 of them in our office in North Carolina. And those are like our W-2 employees. And then we have web developers, virtual assistants, it's basically, and designers, web dev, virtual assistants, and designers that are located in the Philippines. And in the Philippines, so our developers are among the highest paid people in the Philippines, but it's only costing us like $18 an hour. You can get virtual assistants for like $6 or $7 an hour that are okay. You can get really good ones for 10 or 12. Find somebody with experience that's been trained on it and give them some things to do. If you can get just manage, like in my case, managing my calendar was awesome. So if I hired a VA, our assistant is in office, but if I hired a VA, having her handle my calendar would be like the first thing I would do. And then my Facebook messages and a lot of that kind of stuff would be the next thing I would do. And if you're really curious about this, Denise, there's a guy by the name of Dan Martell. I could sit there and give you the strategies, but honestly, I'd just be knocking him off because I said 3 months ago, it's the first time I got an assistant. It was after I read his book, which is Buy Back Your Time, that I applied that. And just read the book. He's going to explain it a hell of a lot better than I am.
Now, tell us about managing multiple businesses, the pros and the cons.
I've had 3 successful businesses all in the junk removal space. So we've got Junk Doctors does well. JRA is the best one. STB did extremely well. Last year sucked, lost money.
Hold on. Tell us about STB, because people might not know what you're talking about. That is your specialty truck bodies. So
yeah, junk removal trucks for sale.com. We build junk removal dump truck bodies and put them on trucks, and we ship them throughout the country. We've sold, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 trucks, 150 to 200 trucks since we started doing them in 2020. And it's specific to junk removal. Right now, I've got 5 junk removal trucks sitting there ready to go. They've got bodies on them. They're primed. All you got to do is tell me the paint color. We stick it in our paint booth. Our painter goes in there. He paints the thing up. And in a couple of weeks, you got a completed truck that's ready to roll. So we got really quick wait times. They're competitive pricing. So I'm not going to say it's the cheapest, but it's extremely good quality. And they're right in line with other manufacturers of similar quality, but they've got all the features that you need to have a really, really good junk removal truck. You don't have to sit there.
Can you give us a couple of the features? Like, do you customize them for junk removal? Do you have like a lift gate? Do you have like an automatic tarp? Like, kind of fill us in. What do you got on them?
We are just starting to offer lift gates. We fought it forever, but then Sonoma Strong started saying, hey, you got to have a lift gate. And
I'm telling you, that is the best thing. It saves your back when you got a refrigerator or something that's got to go up there. Yeah. You appreciate that lift gate.
How old are you?
41.
All right, you're 41. When you get, you're going to grow. You're going to have a big operation. I can tell. When you get to a 4 or 5 truck operation, you're going to start hiring 20-year-olds. They ain't going to touch that damn lift gate, man. They don't use it. They're like, you know, I'm a man. I don't need to use that thing. If I was going to go out and haul jerk on my own, I'd have a lift gate, or I'd have a hook lift where I can drop that bin down and walk my ass right up into the dumpster and load it up. Yeah. But these young guys, they don't do it, man. You know, you spend the extra money on the lift gate. It takes up extra weight, and you lose the opportunity to have a ramp, which a lot of times a ramp is nice. We extend them on out to the, we'll park and we'll extend the ramp out to where the front porch is, so we don't have to go down the stairs and that sort of deal. So. And then if you're loading bag stores, you can actually, we put winches on the front of our trucks at the top. It's an option we have. And you can actually, if you have a bag store, you can take your winch and you hook it up and you pull it on that ramp, and you kind of lose that some with the lift gate, unless you're strong enough to actually be able to get the bag store up on the lift gate. So we've started just now beginning to offer that as an option. I don't have any sitting there ready to go, but it's something that can be done now. And that's just because, people started really demanding it. I think once what we're seeing is guys that are not on the truck aren't buying them because they figured out that the employees aren't using them.
Okay. And now, so juggling three different businesses, what does your normal day look like?
My main focus now, all right, pretty much 100% is on JRA. So I split my time a lot over the last few years between STB and JRA. And what happened is I've got two decent businesses, but I want to have a world-class, great business. And so what I've done is I've brought in a partner with STB, and I'm transitioning a lot of my duties from STB over to him. And this guy's got a great manufacturing background, and he'll do an excellent job. He's an older guy, and I just know he's going to do phenomenal. He'll probably do better with it than I will. And then that way I can focus 100% on JRA. So at JRA, we've always done dumpsters, but it hasn't been a huge focus of ours. We've done well with dumpsters. We've got dumpster companies. We've got a guy in Atlanta doing over $6 million a year. He'll do $10 million this year with a roll-off business. He's added front load and all too. We've got maybe a dozen other guys throughout the country that range anywhere from $300,000 a year to maybe about $2 million a year in dumpster rentals. We got a lot of guys that do junk and dumpsters. So we're great at dumpster rentals, but now we're focusing on the entire waste industry, starting with roll-offs. And then, we want to get into the front load side, which is more commercial. We've got some ideas around that we'll start kind of rolling out, probably not this year, but maybe late this year or early next year. And we actually want to start acquiring other niche-based marketing agencies. So we're making our internal processes really, really tight because we want to start actually buying, an HVAC marketing agency, a plumbing marketing agency, electrical, whatever, and kind of build up, a good-sized company. And 10 years from now, between acquisitions and all that we make, I'd like the JRA organization, whatever it's called, to be about $100 million a year business. So that's the aspirations that we've got for it. The only way that's going to happen is if I focus in 100% on one business. So STB is an investment. Junk Doctors is an investment. I may one day sell one or both of those. Right now they do well. They make money. There's great people running them. So it's like not a big deal. But if I ever decide, at some point I might sell it. We've been approached a bunch about selling Junk Doctors, especially all these private equity companies floating around. So what I would tell people is I did, in a way, do it right. Started three businesses within the same kind of vertical. So especially with truck bodies. So we had JRA, which JRA came from knowing junk removal. So we had this great business. We could tell people, hey, we built a multi-million-dollar a year company. These are things that we did. This is what we can do for you. So that took off pretty quick. And we started off in trucks. We had all these people we could market the trucks to. Well, even though we shared a common client, truck bodies and junk, what was different is manufacturing is a hell of a lot different than lugging junk or doing marketing services. So I sit there and I spent a bunch of time learning manufacturing when I could have actually been building up the core JRA business, providing the best possible service for all of our clients, providing new services for our clients that push revenue, and eventually, acquiring businesses in other niches within the marketing space. So what I would tell people is it's easy to say, hey, I want to start a new business. And a lot of times people get a company to a few $100,000 a year, or maybe even a few million a year. A few million a year, $3 million a year. I tell a lot of people that on the junk removal side of things, and that impresses them and they're happy. A $3 million a year business really is not that big of a business. And all combined with all the businesses I have, it'll do like $7.5, $8 million is what we'll show. And I was like, to a lot of people that's successful, but it's not really where I want to go. So let's focus in and let's just get phenomenal at this one business. And I feel like that's good advice for most people. In junk removal, the thing you see a lot of is, hey, I want to go into dumpster rental. It makes sense to go into dumpster rental once you've tapped out your market. So if you have a junk removal company and you have a population of 1 million, so you're like a small to medium-sized market, and at that population of 1 million, you have about $1 million to $1.5 million business, and it's running well. There's not a lot of fires. You got new equipment. You got a great team. You got somebody they can step in and kind of manage it. Start investing in dumpsters and build it out. But if you're at a few $100,000 a year or something like that, and you're barely making any money and you've got fires and your equipment's getting older, it's breaking down. Build what you got, build that up to a certain size, then go into dumpsters or then go to the new location. Don't rush it because it just creates a lot of complexity. You wind up slowing yourself down.
I totally agree. And me being a serial entrepreneur myself, pretty much what you just said is pretty much the formula that I follow. So, I first started off with antiques and collectibles. I got that up and running, maximized that business. Put one of my best friends, he runs the day-to-day operations of that. Went out to Colorado, opened a marijuana dispensary, got that all up and running, seen an opportunity going in California with it going legal out there, made the move over there, set up cultivation, built my whole team. Got now, because when I was in the dispensary, I was married to a business. When I seen that, I was like, how can I be free? And then I went to the cultivation. And once I built the team, I don't got to be there on the day-to-day operations. So now I got two businesses that are bringing me income, and I really don't got to put much time into them. It allowed me to get into the arm wrestling world, became a pro arm wrestler, then opened a arm wrestling promotion company that went worldwide and everything, got into that. Now I got into the junk removal and all, and just like you said, I don't got to focus on those other businesses. They're running themselves. I got the proper everything set up so that they just work and run on its own. Now I could put 100% of my focus and time into building this junk removal business. And what my goal is with this is because I really don't need to do something like this, but it's more of the challenge. I've never built like a franchise, and I don't know if you would call it a franchise. I live in 3 different states, and my goal is to, in each state, possibly open a junk removal company and everything. And that's kind of like what my challenge is and why I'm going after this. And I'm very happy to have you on here because I haven't actually met anybody that's kind of been on like the same path and kind of like looking to scale to the size that I could see myself wanting to do. And now after hearing from you, it's like, okay, wow, there is somebody out there. And then like I gotta say, even on that first episode of the Junk Family, and we kind of got in that whole debate with making millions in junk removal, it kind of had me a little confused, because I'm hearing 2 different sides of the story, and I didn't know what was real, what was not. And I started like kind of questioning myself and asking, well, who has really made it? Who is doing it to that large scale? Is it something possible? And now just having you on and hearing you speak, and I see a lot of things that I have in common with you, and it's definitely exciting to me. And it's kind of like, yeah, wow, this is possible. We can scale something that big, and so. It's definitely inspiring to me to hear your story with this for sure, bro. And I just want to thank you for sharing it with us.
Yeah, man. What I'd ask, is there anything physically keeping somebody from building up a $10 million, a $50 million, $100 million, $1 billion a year junk removal company? Is there something that is preventing that from occurring? And there's not, because people spend billions of dollars a year on junk removal. There's no reason that somebody can't build one brand that does so good, that advertises so good, that's so involved in the community, that get the point, sponsorships and radio and just having people. And you can only go to so many chamber of commerce meetings, have people, affiliates or something, that represents you in different chamber of commerces. I just literally just came up with this during this talk. Where I'm going with it, though, is there's nothing that prevents you. There's no laws of physics that prevent you from building $1 billion a year junk removal business. Nobody's done it yet. Got junk's probably 400 or 500 million a year. But somebody has done that size. So, there's nothing preventing you from doing that. Had I not started JRA, and this is what I'd ask you, because I've asked myself this a lot too. What if I never started anything else? And what if I put all my time and attention and effort on growing junk doctors?
What would be bigger? Like where?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do $8 million a year now between 3 companies right now. That company would probably be $20 million, $30 million a year right now. We could have locations all over the place. And if it was run well, it's a pretty complex organization when you start getting that large and have different locations. Then, but it's doing better than probably where I am now. So that's the reason, like, I've got the business we're good at. I see a path forward. I see a way of acquiring agencies to kind of expedite the growth process, because I think I've run out of patience to start a new business. So, now that I see that, that's what I'm going to do. So the first 35 years of my life, I've been working since I was 15, so say 20 years. of working. It's been bouncing around thinking about what's next, what new business and that sort of deal. The shiny object. Somebody started this new type of company, so they're making money, and I'm going to go off and do that. But they're just giving you the highlights. They're telling you about what's good. So you got like all this. You got this uninformed optimism. Alex Hormozy, I can't remember what he calls this, but this rings true. You basically start out, you see this thing that your buddy's doing or that you read about online or you find on YouTube, and you come into it and you've got basically uninformed optimism. So you're like, he's making a bunch of money. Then you get into it and you get started, and then it gets to this informed pessimism. So you're like, God, this is freaking hard. And from informed pessimism, most times people flame out. But if they go from informed pessimism and they get to the point that they have informed optimism and they stick with it, then they go off and they're successful. Every time you hit the reset button, like on a video game, you hit a reset button, you lose like a few seconds. In business, you lose years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And I found that to be true. Every time I've started a new business, had I stuck with just junk doctors and worked it, it'd be it's a great organization now, but it would be, one of the top premier organizations. I think it'd be within the top, the big 4, big 5, Junk King, College Hunks, Got Junk, Junk Luggers, and there could be junk doctors in there. Had I stuck with that back then. People jump ship too much, guys. And it's self-doubt. You get this self-doubt like, hey, something's going to prevent me from doing it. Nobody's keeping you from building $1 billion a year junk removal company. You just show up every day, go to work, and you got to think big. You ain't going to do it at being debt-free. You're not going to do it the Dave Ramsey way, getting there. So if that's how big you want to go, you have to take some risk. But nothing's preventing you from doing it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that statement. And we got a good question from Denise Sparks. She says, racing cars, flying your plane, and junk removal. Which is your absolute favorite if you had to choose?
Ooh, I'd hate to have to choose one. Racing cars is probably the only thing I've ever done that's better than sex. But it comes with a lot of pressure. So when you race, at least the type of racing that I've been doing, now you've got autocross events and some other stuff that you can do, like drag racing, you can show up and that can be just an evening or it can be pretty quick. The circle track stuff, you go off on race week, which we raced every other week from April through basically October, the end of October. The race week, you'd have at least one practice session. So that was 4 hours on an afternoon. You'd go and you'd turn laps and then tune on the car, work on the car. You had a lot of time actually working on the car. Now, I kind of quit racing about 1.5 years ago. And prior to that, I was no longer working on the car, but I was paying a lot of money for somebody else to work on it. And then you go off on a Saturday and you get there at 9:30 or 10 in the morning. You get parked, you get set up, you get your tent set up, and you got to go and you do all this. You get all your tires ready, and it's just a whole operation. And then you practice all day, and then you race. And the race is over at 12 o'clock. And after the race is over, you got to go to Waffle House. So you go to Waffle House and you get something over there and you get home and it's 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning. That was a lot of fun. But when I started having kids and all like that, I remember one afternoon we were sitting there doing practice laps. And I'm like, dude, I'd just rather be home playing with Jet. That was my first kid. I was like, I'm tired of this. So that season ended and won the last race that I ever raced in. And I probably will do some more racing. I might get into some like road course type stuff. I don't think I'll do circle tracks type stuff anymore, but that was a ton of fun. It's also a lot of pressure. You think about it a lot more. Flying, on the other hand, I can work a full day, and I live on a private, we've since moved, but I own a house that we rent out, and I own a hangar on a private airport 5 minutes from where I work. So on an afternoon, especially during the summer, I get, maybe I'll stop working at 6 o'clock, something like that. I'll slip out there. I'll roll my plane out. I'll go flying for 15 minutes. It'll be a great way to cap a day. And then I'll head on home and do the family thing or whatever. So flying is the thing that's easier to do. It's actually less. Well, I won't say it's less expensive. They're both.
It is very. I was supposed to take flying lessons. It's quite expensive, for sure.
Yeah, it's the greatest thing in the world, man. If you could have the time to actually do it, though, it's nothing beats it. So, flying planes is the answer there, Denise.
I got to ask you this: what was the fastest you've been in a car?
Man, the cars that we were doing and actually racing in, the tracks were small. So like a half mile was the largest I ever raced on. We probably got up to like 125. I've been faster on a street car. Well, actually,
what's your max on a street car?
About 160, something like that. And I did actually do about 175 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So I was able to drive a car at Charlotte Motor Speedway and turn some laps in a practice session. And I did about 175 there. And I've been racing on the small tracks and everything, but you barrel off into, I think Charlotte Motor Speedway is like a 28 or 30-degree banking. You barrel off in that corner and it just looks like a wall that's catching you up there. And you're flying. You're like, there's no way in hell this car's going to stay.
I've drove on Daytona. I know the deal with that. That is crazy. You know, until you actually see it in person, you don't realize what the vert is looking like, you know. And on the street, man, I've hit 208. I'm in the 200 club, man. I had a Ferrari 458 Italia, all worked in 7 Mile Bridge down in the Keys, and I hit the 208, and that, oh my God, that was scary. So the first run I went down, I had a soda can in there, and it actually exploded from the pressure when I hit 160. So it went all over the car, went through the bridge, and I was like, all right, I got to hit 200. Let's clean off. Let's go try doing this again. Turned around and hit 208. Have it on video. It was definitely extreme. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got friends that talk about doing 200, 220, 230 on a motorcycle. That's insane to me. But
yeah, I was a 180 on my Ducati 1098. I was always that guy, life in the fast lane, and I used to be nuts, and I used to put them out on Facebook, the videos. And I just remember when my parents would wake up in the morning and they would see it, I'd get the phone call from my mom. What are you doing? I'm gonna kill you! Like, you're doing 200 miles per hour, and it was just so funny. And I used to set her off with all that. But yeah, I love cars, man. That was always my thing. You know, I've had all the crazy cars, Lambos, Ferraris, and you know, I'm actually looking for a new toy coming up. I'm trying to figure out what I want to get next. Do you have any toys, any cars that stand out?
You know, man, I'm kind of old school. Some people, I mean, I'm 35 years old. A lot of times people would put me as being a little bit more than that. I love like the American muscle car stuff, man. I mean, I think the Ferraris are neat and Lambos are neat and everything, but man, an Oldsmobile 442 is great. I like an old pickup truck. So, you know, in my garage right now, I've got a 66 Mustang and I've got an old CJ Jeep.
I was just about to say, I love the Fox body Mustang, man. The 5.0 was always my baby. I used to have one. I used to do 10.0 on the quarter and all that.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I don't have expensive cars as toys. I don't need expensive cars. I have cars that are interesting to me, that are different to drive. And I mean, like that Mustang, that car's a $25,000 car or something. So it's not a lot of money, but it gives me probably the same satisfaction as owning a $200,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 Ferrari or Lamborghini or whatever.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. Well, Lee, I want to thank you for coming on tonight, brother. It was a great interview, a lot of knowledge shared tonight. I hope everybody in the chat was enjoying it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button, help me get in the algorithm. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And also get over to the JRA, Junk Removal Authority. Make sure you subscribe over there. Lee, is there anywhere else you would like for people to hit you up on and, you know, check you out?
Man, head over to our channel. You know, we're not the entertaining guys really going out in the truck. But if you're thinking about building a sizable business, there's a lot of really good information we've put out over many, many years. We are now active again on the YouTube channel after last year was just head down in operations on JRA and STB. And now we are producing content. We're actively growing that business. We'd love to have people over there and interact and hopefully can provide some value.
Hell yeah. So guys, definitely get over there, show support. Lee is one of the original OGs of junk removal. Definitely somebody to learn from. Definitely inspired me today for sure. Showing really how you could scale this junk removal business. And Ricardo, if you are listening, here is your proof right here. You can be a millionaire just from junk removal. So
I'm still saying Ricardo is his own proof. I almost guarantee you that guy's a millionaire. He's his own proof.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too, man. And, you know, maybe over time, maybe it wasn't just like, you know, one big lump sum of $1 million in the bank at one time. But, you know, if you add up all his assets and all that, I'm sure he's above that.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. And Lee, have a great night and hope to see you soon, brother.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it, man. It was fun.